Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day, there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And holy cow, I cannot wait for today's discussion because it's something that I've never had the opportunity to use, but it sounds so cool and it's so techy and it's just all these things that I love. So please join me in welcoming James Terry to our program today. Welcome, James. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thanks so much for having me, Deb.
Great. Well, let me tell people just a little bit about you, and then we'll jump into this. So James Terry is the head of U.S. revenue for IndeedFlex, which is part of Indeed. And he leads one of the most innovative staffing platforms, transforming how companies hire and manage talent in the age of AI. As businesses in retail, logistics, hospitality, and healthcare face labor shortages, high turnover, and new technology pressures, James offers a frontline view into how AI and automation are redefining workforce strategy, not replacing people, but empowering them, which is very much what I think, right? So again, James, welcome. Yeah, I believe AI is a tool. We need to learn how to use it and all those great things. But tell us a little bit more about how you got to where you are today.
Well, when I started out, AI was I don't even know if it was a figment in anyone's imagination at that point. Maybe some of those Stanford professors or something. But when I started my career, I started out actually in sales.
Okay.
When I graduated from college, I worked in the nonprofit industry, and I did something called development work there. And development is essentially writing grants to be able to have organizations donate money to a nonprofit. I
Kind
was in
of
Washington,
sales.
D.C. That's why I mentioned, yes, kind of sales. And I realized that as great as that was, working for a nonprofit in Washington, D.C., where the cost of living is not inexpensive,
Right.
I decided, maybe that's not for me. But I always had a desire to help people and to change the world and to make improvements, right? Make improvements in the way that people live their lives.
Okay.
And so maybe that's me just telling myself that sales is a great career. But after I decided that I wanted to move on from that, drove my 1985 Volvo station wagon across the country to California, where I'm originally from, and took interviews on the road, and ended up with a company called ADP, which is a payroll processor, very largest payroll company in the world. And it really started my true sales career there. And one of the greatest parts about that organization is that they truly do train and upskill people. Did outside sales for them in the Southern California area. Was given an opportunity to then lead a team in a startup in inside sales. And so we're talking now like the early 2010s. And inside sales was really, digital sales was really just a growing part of the way that organizations were trying to distribute their product. That was kind of the beginning, Deb, of like SaaS sales. So previously it was always like you had your stack of business cards, you had your little flyers, you went door to door and
knocking, yeah. And every networking event you could go to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're talking to the ambassador of the Santa Barbara Chamber of Commerce, ambassador of the year of 2013 or something like that. And so, the economy of sales was changing. Was given an opportunity to move to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and lead a team, and we grew it to a couple hundred people. And I had grown up actually living overseas, and so I always had this little bug. For my father was in the State Department. Always had a bug for like wanting to live overseas, and so my organization they were looking at expanding the inside sales footprint internationally, and so I was given an opportunity to move to Bucharest, Romania, and so lived in Romania for 2 years to help start up our sales organization there within Romania. And the idea is we were going to be distributing our product across multiple different
Mm-hmm.
geographies in
Mm-hmm.
Western Europe. The great thing about Romania is that everyone speaks and Romanian and English
Right.
and French or German or Spanish or
Mm-hmm.
Dutch or
Mm-hmm.
Italian or whatever it might
Mm-hmm.
be. And boy, was that a slice of humble pie right there, that I'm just a guy who speaks un poquito español, and you're just
I tell
talking to these
people
people.
English is my only language and I'm not that good at it,
Right.
right?
So I did that for 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
and then the opportunity came up to move to IndeedFlex,
Oh.
which had just recently been
Mm-hmm.
acquired by Indeed. It was
Mm-hmm.
previously called Sift. The idea being that you shouldn't have to sift through resumes. You should
Mm-hmm.
be able to get qualified
Mm-hmm.
talent.
Mm-hmm.
Started there in February of 2020 in
Mm-hmm.
London, England, and that was a month before COVID happened.
Yeah, I was about to say yoicks.
Yeah, and Indeed Flex, the crazy thing about it is about 98% of their business had been within the hospitality market. So the
Mm-hmm.
hospitality temporary
Mm-hmm.
staffing,
Mm-hmm.
the largest temporary
Mm-hmm.
staffing market in the world
Mm-hmm.
for hospitality
Mm-hmm.
is in London. That's the largest metro for temp staffing and
Mm-hmm.
hospitality. And so we lost 98% of our business overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the great things is that we were able to pivot over to retail. So replenishment assistants, stocking
Mm-hmm.
shelves of grocery
Mm-hmm.
stores, which was, an essential job at that time. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure you remember like having to wait in
Mm-hmm.
line to go to the grocery store,
Right.
and
Mm-hmm.
and so we did that, and then over the course of the next couple of years, expanded to other verticals and
Mm-hmm.
industries. Jumped over to the U.S. I'm
Mm-hmm.
back now living in the U.S., and
Mm-hmm.
I tell that kind of a little bit of a longer story just because your career can really take you
Mm-hmm.
anywhere. And I've
Mm-hmm.
been very lucky on my journey to be able to have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of different opportunities. But as I mentioned, like I started my
Mm-hmm.
career in sales because I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
help people. And
Mm-hmm.
now I work for a company where the motto is we help people get jobs.
Right.
And so it's great to work for a SaaS company,
Mm-hmm.
a technology
Mm-hmm.
company, and Indeed Flex,
Mm-hmm.
using AI at the forefront. But
Mm-hmm.
fundamentally, how can you not get up excited every day with the fact that you're
Right.
helping people get jobs?
Oh yeah. And it's funny. We all make faces at sales, right? Ew. Okay. If you're in business, you have to do sales. You know?
Yep.
And even if you hire somebody to do sales for you, nope, nope, nope. You're still the head salesperson, right?
Hmm.
And so that's always one of those things because I make the face. But yeah, we couldn't do anything without sales. And I think that is the thing that most people forget. Well, we know that Indeed helps people get jobs. So tell us what Indeed Flex does.
So Indeed is essentially what Indeed did.
Mhm.
Indeed just hit their 20-year anniversary a few months
Wow.
ago.
Holy
It's
cow.
crazy to think, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and essentially what they did. So I'll tell this brief story about Indeed
Hmm.
because I think that helps frame up
Hmm.
Indeed Flex.
Hmm.
So, and it's really interesting what Indeed did. So previously, if you wanted to go get a job around this time of the year, the holiday season,
Hmm.
because a lot of people are scaling up right now for the
Hmm.
holidays,
Hmm.
you would have to go to HomeDepot.com and Lowe's.com
Yeah.
and whatever.com
Every
and
one
click,
of them.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Click on careers,
Hmm.
apply, search your location, or 25 years ago, you were actually picking up the newspaper and looking in the
Hmm.
classified
Right.
section.
Or just
And it took,
appearing. Hmm.
yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
And it took time. There was
Hmm.
friction in it. There was
Hmm.
friction in being able to
Hmm.
get a job.
Well, it's
And so
frustrating.
it is. Yeah, and there's an information problem
Hmm.
because if I'm only looking at these classified ads or
Hmm.
whatever's up in my head that I'm putting into the
Hmm.
search engine, maybe the really good fit for me is something that, a company or an
Hmm.
organization or role
Hmm.
that I'm not even familiar
Hmm.
with.
Hmm.
So there's this fundamental information problem paired with the fact there was friction in people being able to get work. And so what Indeed did is they built a system that essentially what it could do is it would scrape jobs websites. So it'd scrape all the
Hmm.
websites of all these different
Okay.
companies and just put them
Hmm.
online. And they created a really interesting phenomenon where people realized that Indeed existed, and all the job seekers said, well, I'm going to go on to Indeed to get my
Hmm.
next job. And so then Indeed was able to go to the companies and say, you should post your jobs proactively on Indeed because we've
Right.
already got all the job seekers, so
Hmm.
you should post them
Hmm.
on Indeed. And that's really the genesis of Indeed.
Hmm.
Now, if you think about it, the other side of the economy that I think people that are in it
Hmm.
know, there's a big part of the economy and the labor force. It's
Hmm.
contingent labor,
Hmm.
temporary labor.
Hmm.
Sometimes that would manifest itself in organizations like I mentioned, where they're ramping
Yeah, the
up
big box
significantly.
guys. Hmm.
Right. Ramping up for a peak period of the year. They know that they're going to have more foot traffic or more orders or whatever it might be. And so I need to be able to staff with more people. And it can also be organizations where if they're looking at certain roles or pay rates that maybe are not as high, that tend to have a little bit higher turnover rate or attrition, it's a big investment for an organization if you have 10,000 frontline workers that are and you have a 30 or 40% turnover rate because they tend to be people tend to move around jobs more in those. It's a big investment to hire a team of recruiters to always be recruiting for those. And then, by the way, I also need to be able to ramp up for a peak period. Like all of a sudden that becomes a little bit untenable. And so what a lot of organizations do is they say, hey, we're actually going to do a temp to perm role where I'm going to outsource the recruitment process, have an agency recruit the candidate, bring them on temporary, almost like a try before you buy type of model. And then when they hit a certain number of hours, I'm able to bring them on as a permanent employee. I mentioned that, Deb, because what ends up happening is that these companies need to hire people too. And so they were using Indeed as well. And Indeed realized, they said, hey, well, you've got all these different really great staffing companies that are using Indeed to find work. And why don't we actually build our own program that can also do this and find a niche within that so that we can also deliver labor. And so what we do, our big differentiating factor, is we actually use technology to be able to drive what we think is a better match of the job seeker to the client. So whereas in a traditional staffing organization, worker walks in or applies online to a staffing firm and they say, the staffing firm says, okay, well, where do we need someone? We need someone at this client because they need the most headcount right now. And so they say, Deb, you're going to go and you're going to work here. And sometimes that works, but maybe that company maybe I have to stand all day, or maybe it's not a temperature controlled environment, or maybe the public transportation doesn't get me there, or maybe the shift pattern doesn't work with my life scenario. And so what ends up happening is you go and you work there for a little bit, Deb, and then you realize that just doesn't work for me. And you turn
and then
over
they've got to start
job.
over and you've got to start over.
Exactly. And so what we've done within IndeedFlex is we allow workers to have the control and choice to decide where they want to go. And so they have the ability, when they get verified, we ask them questions in their interview, and we're actually starting to roll out AI interviews. So we're using AI to interview a lot of our candidates, of which they actually prefer in a lot of cases doing an AI interview because it's more on demand. But they get verified for the skill sets, and then they can simply go and scroll through and see, okay, well, here are all the options for me. This one has a higher pay rate, but this one's really close to me. Oh, and this one has a better shift pattern, or whatever it might be. Or this is a role that I do really well. And so they can have the control and choice to decide where they want to go. And that's a little bit about us and what we do. And I'd say what we do differently than a lot of other organizations that are out there.
Right. Well, like I said, I've not used the platform. It sounds absolutely fascinating. Back when I actually did resumes and things like that, because I have my own company now, so I don't have to do that. But, you printed your resume on a special paper, right? It had to be this kind of creamy bond,
thick cardstock.
Yes, all of those things. But we all, and then you either mailed it or handed it to them in person. And, and then they would, and, I worked for a company there where I wasn't part of this, but I saw it done. Then they would scan them and then the computer would start looking for matches. Well, of course, one of the things is people tried to get around it. So in like white ink that didn't show on the paper, they'd put all their keywords that, right, they job stuff and word stuff. And the computer would pick it up, but the human eye couldn't.
Interesting.
I know. See, I'm old. And they did, they used to do that. And, then when you could really truly apply online, you still put those words in there and hope that maybe you could fudge, sure, I can learn how to do that. But things, it's incredible to see how things have progressed, because it's better for everybody all the way around when you get the right first matches to start with, right? So I, as the job applicant, am not going for things that I'm not really qualified for and wasting my time. And the company that's interviewing me is not wasting their time talking to somebody who's not qualified. And now we add AI into this mix. And as I mentioned when I was reading your bio, I like AI. It is a tool. It's a great tool. I use it throughout my day, and could use it more. And I'm learning to do that. But tell us how, in your world, AI is really helping things progress.
There's one word that you said in particular that I think is so fundamental,
Mm-hmm.
and that is match. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
ultimately
Mm-hmm.
what you're trying to
Right.
do when you're doing an
Mm-hmm.
interview, when you're building a resume or
Mm-hmm.
looking at a resume, when you're using AI
Mm-hmm.
really to be able to find
Mm-hmm.
candidates, you're trying to find the right match,
Mm-hmm.
like staffing is kind
Mm-hmm.
of like dating. You're
Mm-hmm.
trying to match the
Mm-hmm.
client to the skill sets of the
Mm-hmm.
workers. But here's one of the crazy things is that if I want to go and find a restaurant to go to tonight, I can
Mm-hmm.
just go onto Google and
Mm-hmm.
get a review.
Right.
And it's like a 4.5
Mm-hmm.
star rated by
Mm-hmm.
1,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And if I really want, if I look at two Italian restaurants and
Mm-hmm.
one's 4.7 and one's 4.3, like I'm going to go to the 4.7
Right.
because it's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be better,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's just for getting a meal. Think
Mm-hmm.
about it. We actually haven't done that in the job world yet. Like
Right.
people working is like the lifeblood, the like
Mm-hmm.
the most
Mm-hmm.
value added part of our economy,
Mm-hmm.
and we haven't built this like verifiable
Mm-hmm.
skill set
Mm-hmm.
for people yet either.
Right.
So actually what we're tracking towards in
Mm-hmm.
Indeed Flex is our goal is ultimately to remove the resume.
Mm-hmm.
And here's how. Because did you know that over 70% of people actually lie on their resume?
Oh, I would
So
have thought it was higher.
right, like I mean,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm in the recruitment industry, and I'd never heard that story about
Yeah.
people putting it in
Mm-hmm.
white ink. Like that's, by the
Mm-hmm.
way, I'm going to steal that one. I'm going to use
You
it. That's a
can. You can
great.
take that. Mm-hmm. You could say
Um,
way back when.
yeah. Um, but people, because people are dishonest on their
Mm-hmm.
resume, what it ends up happening is you are degrading the ability for
Mm-hmm.
the matching to happen
Mm-hmm.
effectively. And so what our goal at Indeed Flex is how can we live in a world where someone goes and
Mm-hmm.
works and they get rated. They get
Mm-hmm.
rated on a
Okay.
five-star scale with their
Okay.
quality of
Mm-hmm.
work, and they can get rated every
Mm-hmm.
shift. Maybe they have a couple of great shifts, maybe
Mm-hmm.
they don't, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
Such that eventually, when this person decides to leave their
Mm-hmm.
job and go and apply for another one,
Mm-hmm.
because that happens,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the next company they go and look for should be able to go on and see, oh, this is a 4.8 star
Mm-hmm.
rated worker. And you know
Mm-hmm.
what? Look at that. Look at who gave him 5 stars. My competitor down the street.
Yes, the people that
So in
I know and trust. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so you're so
Mm-hmm.
so we think about it and saying like, well, how can AI help the resume process or the interview process or the
Mm-hmm.
recruitment process? I'm saying like completely change your framework here,
Mm-hmm.
ladies and gentlemen. In reality, if you use AI effectively,
Mm-hmm.
do you even need a resume? Do
Mm-hmm.
you even need an interview?
Mm-hmm.
Do you need this? Like
Mm-hmm.
realistically, I could potentially hire that 5 star worker from that friend down the
Mm-hmm.
street and bring them on board. I might not even need to interview them because someone else has already done it and
Right.
they've done it
They
on the
vetted them.
job.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so the big part of it is how can we then with knowing there's a lot of candidates and a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
out there, going
Mm-hmm.
back to the key word that you
Mm-hmm.
said, which is match, is
Mm-hmm.
how can we know there's a lot of 5 star workers out
Mm-hmm.
there, but how can we make sure we're matching the right 5 star
Mm-hmm.
worker to the
Right.
right client
Mm-hmm.
based on all these other different
Mm-hmm.
criteria that we can track. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you're able to have the data and you're
Mm-hmm.
able to crunch the data in a way that okay, well, if someone lives over or under 10 miles from a location,
Mm-hmm.
they're less or more likely
Mm-hmm.
to show
Mm-hmm.
up.
Mm-hmm.
If the schedule is X versus
Mm-hmm.
Y, this person is going to
Mm-hmm.
be more likely to take it than that person. And
Mm-hmm.
so using those little data points to
Mm-hmm.
then be able to make it really easy and
Mm-hmm.
not say, hey, did you know that this and this and this and this,
Mm-hmm.
distance and pay and schedule and all
Mm-hmm.
these different things, rather than telling
Mm-hmm.
someone, which you can do,
Mm-hmm.
that these are important factors,
Mm-hmm.
press the easy button. Just tell them, here are your top 5 candidates.
Mm-hmm.
Choose
Mm-hmm.
one of these ones.
Mm-hmm.
We've already done all the heavy lifting for
Right.
you by using our system
Mm-hmm.
and the history that we have in our
Mm-hmm.
system to be able to
Mm-hmm.
drive some of that
Mm-hmm.
visibility for you.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, now I'm assuming that you have your own AI that has been written for you. You're not using Chat GPT because we know it hallucinates. And but how can it get, if people are, because they can still lie, right? When we're filling out job applications, things like that. How can you get past that? Or is there a way?
So are you asking for advice on how to lie on an AI interview
Oh
right now?
no, no. I own my own company. But if Jim wants to know, we know. But people are still going to do it, right? And let's just take a simple basic thing. The job listing has 10 criteria. You must know how to do these 10 things. And it is a lie to say you can do all 10 if you can't do all 10, but we've always done that, right? Or we've done, okay, I can do 8 and I can probably figure out how to do 2. So I'm going to say I can do it. So it's not, and they're, obviously the flat out lies, but there's kind of different degrees. And so can AI kind of figure some of those things out?
It's a great question. There's two parts to it. So um, I'll start with maybe like the mindset of like AI is not the only answer here, and then I'll tell you
Mm-hmm.
why actually AI maybe is we should give it more credit than we probably give
Okay.
it now.
Okay.
So why AI isn't the only answer
Mm-hmm.
is because while I walked through a perfect
Mm-hmm.
scenario of, hey, Joe down the street
Mm-hmm.
has worked with this worker
Mm-hmm.
before and they're 5-star rated and all
Mm-hmm.
that, and like you can hire them without a,
Mm-hmm.
interview. Like most companies aren't doing that right now. I
Mm-hmm.
think that there are companies that are starting
Mm-hmm.
to, but that doesn't happen all the time. But what's happening right now is that there are, and you've seen it, like there are lots of layoffs that are happening in the
Mm-hmm.
economy.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, like a lot of people are looking for work. The
Mm-hmm.
cost of living is increasing, right? Like I don't need to go
Mm-hmm.
through the whole rigmarole of what's
Mm-hmm.
happening in the economy right now. We all know that. And so what's happening is that people are applying for jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And when a lot of people are applying for a fewer number of jobs, that
Mm-hmm.
means you have more job
Mm-hmm.
applications
Mm-hmm.
overall.
Right.
While job numbers are down, they're actually still higher than pre-COVID
Mm-hmm.
levels by about 7 or 8%.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means is that what that means, and then there's more people applying for jobs. So what this
Mm-hmm.
means is that whereas I might have, 3 years ago gotten 20 or 30 or 40
Mm-hmm.
people to apply for a job, maybe I'm getting 200 people to apply for a job.
Whew.
And so now I need to figure out how am I going to go through, how am I going
Mm-hmm.
to
Right.
sift through all
Mm-hmm.
these
Mm-hmm.
resumes
Whether
and
it's
figure out who,
digital or printed or whatever, it's just a lot of
right,
work. Mm-hmm.
right. And as you had said, you used to have this machine that would go through and look for
Mm-hmm.
keywords, and there are systems out there that do that. What we do at Indeed is we actually have we have the workers apply.
Mm-hmm.
We try to recommend the best work for
Mm-hmm.
these workers in particular. So we're kind of like giving them the best opportunities we think is a match. They can apply for a role, and then what we allow them to do is do an AI interview, and our
Mm-hmm.
AI interview will go through a full interview with
Mm-hmm.
the candidate,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll actually rank of the 200 people.
Mm-hmm.
We'll actually rank all of the workers,
Mm-hmm.
and say, hey, here are your top 5 or your top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Now that doesn't mean you just hire one of those people right off the
Right.
bat,
Mm-hmm.
but it's done a lot of the heavy
Mm-hmm.
lifting of
Mm-hmm.
filtering down to
Mm-hmm.
really who the key candidates
Mm-hmm.
are. And so then you can take it, and rather than as a recruiter having to look at 200 resumes, you
Mm-hmm.
can now just look at 5. And so
Mm-hmm.
you can have a more
Mm-hmm.
impactful, deeper, more
Mm-hmm.
meaningful conversation as opposed to just trying to go through a lot of
Mm-hmm.
resumes at once.
Right.
Now, pardon, as far as AI potentially us not giving it enough credit is that we within our, and I'm going to use our AI interview system as
Mm-hmm.
an example. Within our AI interview system, we find that candidates actually are about 88% of candidates are just as satisfied, if not more satisfied than they are with a human
Hmm.
recruiter. And the
It's
reason for
it's
that,
nerve-wracking.
it
Mm-hmm.
is. But it feels like it feels like it's a little bit more casual, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it gives people the ability to probably be a little bit more honest.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my speculation.
Mm-hmm.
But really what we find are a couple of things. Number one, if I work the day shift,
Mm-hmm.
and I work from 8 to 5,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard for me to take a break to take an interview.
Mm-hmm.
When am I going to go find another job? When am I going to be able to take the
Right.
interview? I'm going to have to take time off. I
Yeah,
can't
I
afford to
need to
take
do it
time
at
off. I have to
10
pay the bills.
p.m. after the kids are in bed.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Hmm.
After the kids are in
Hmm.
bed. Well, the recruiters aren't working at 10 p.m.
Right. Hmm.
AI interview answers like solves that
Hmm.
for you. So now
Hmm.
you can just you can do an interview on demand.
Hmm.
Not only is it on demand, but also as someone is applying for a job,
Hmm.
when they're applying for the job, that's fundamentally when they are the most interested in applying for that job. And
Hmm.
so if you
Hmm.
can immediately get them into an AI
Hmm.
interview, then you're going to have a lower drop off as
Hmm.
opposed to like they apply for a job, they don't hear for a couple of days, and then get an
They don't
email, it
even
gets caught at the
remember
bottom
they
of their
applied for it.
right, exactly.
Hmm.
So they can instantaneously
Hmm.
be able to access the
Hmm.
interview. And then what we also find is that, it 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 is a better representation of how good someone's going to be.
Hmm.
The AI interview doesn't have bias,
Hmm.
right? Everyone has a little
Hmm.
bit of bias, right?
Hmm.
Whether you know it or not, there
Hmm.
is some in there. AI interview also doesn't
Hmm.
coach or prompt people too much, right?
Hmm.
Like it's not going to kind of feed you the
Hmm.
answers.
Hmm.
It's going to give you the
Hmm.
honesty. And then the other
Hmm.
side of it is that, and this is something that I'd say really good recruiters ask second level questions. Well, tell
Hmm.
me an example of that.
Hmm. Hmm.
But not all recruiters do. And with the
Hmm.
AI system, you can just be more consistent
Hmm.
about the
Right.
quality of the
Hmm.
interview, asking
Hmm.
second level questions,
Hmm.
making sure that we are hitting on
Hmm.
all the different aspects that are important
Hmm.
for a hiring manager,
Hmm.
as opposed to just kind of like
Hmm.
ticking the box on the
Hmm.
main ones.
Right.
Right. So it becomes
Hmm.
an interview as
Hmm.
opposed to a screen.
Hmm. Right. But how do you, one of the big parts is body language, things like that, right? You ask a question and they can't meet your eyes, or they cross their arms and lean back, or all of those things, or they lean forward, right? They're very engaged. That was interesting to them. How is there a way to kind of build that in?
So you have to keep in mind that 2 years ago, none of this
Right.
existed.
It didn't even
Right.
exist. And so
So
pretty soon you're not even going to know you're being interviewed by somebody AI,
yeah.
but mhm.
So what you're saying, what like I'd say probably the short answer is probably not right now, but I
Right.
think in the very near
Hmm.
future, yes.
Hmm.
Now, what it does do, so we are building towards that because we
Hmm.
notice that there are
Hmm.
a lot of these like qualitative things that
Hmm.
are very
Hmm.
important during the interview. What we do is we do track the amount of time between a question being asked and then
Okay.
it
Am
being
I having to
answered.
think of what the heck am I going to say?
Right, exactly.
Hmm.
And actually one of the things that we do because AI is still very new
Hmm.
is we actually review all of the AI
Hmm.
interviews with a human.
Hmm.
So the
Hmm.
human isn't doing the interview, but we do have them go through and like look at
Hmm.
the key
Hmm.
questions that are
Hmm.
being asked and kind of scroll through because it's all you can see like what the
Hmm.
responses are transcribed and so
Hmm.
they can kind of click through to the quick
Hmm.
part of the interview that they want to watch. So we do still review all of
Hmm.
the interviews with a human
Hmm.
because everyone you're still
Hmm.
building it.
Hmm.
Would I hire a heart surgeon through AI interview right now? Of
Oh,
course
no.
not. Of course I wouldn't do that.
But,
But there
a
are a lot of
clerk
roles you can.
for, Christmas shopping.
Exactly.
Hmm. Hmm.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so we it's not all the way there yet right
Hmm.
now, but boy, oh boy, like you just see how much productivity
Hmm. Hmm.
increases of the recruiters, and you see
Hmm.
that recruiters
Right.
are now just not like asking a list of questions. They're
Hmm.
becoming more like when they do
Hmm.
actually have that touch
Hmm.
point with the
Hmm.
candidate, they're not recruiting, they're
Hmm.
actually they're actually job coaches
Right.
now.
Right.
So the
Yeah.
value of the
Hmm.
recruiter is increased because you're
Hmm.
taking these more
Hmm.
manual
Hmm.
transactional tasks away from them.
Hmm.
So it's just really interesting to
Hmm.
see how we're actually able to allow
Hmm.
people to create more value
Hmm.
by using AI.
Right. Yeah. You're getting away from the basic questions that have to be asked. And like and maybe it's more, as you said, but it's they're having the conversation with them as opposed to just going down and reading every single thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm. you know it, I love this. I think this is great fun. I shouldn't say fun, it's a great tool, right? And but I was looking at IndeedFlex, and it is tailored towards flexible schedules, temporary things like that. As we are recording this, the government shutdown just ended. Yay. um but did you find that you had a big uptick in users who were looking for just something temporary?
Yeah, we did notice that we had a lot more people that were looking
Mhm.
for more of those ad hoc
Mhm.
type of
Mhm.
roles. And I think the really interesting thing about our platform and the way that we operate is that, as I was talking a little bit about traditional staffing models, is
Mhm.
that they typically do not address that more, let's call it gig type
Mhm.
market,
Mhm.
because operationally placing someone
Mhm.
is a very manual
Mhm.
task. And so they tend to just focus on like longer term
Mhm.
placements. Whereas what we do is we do both, right? And
Mhm.
we have some
Mhm.
people that want to take a long-term permanent job. I
Mhm.
work 8 to 5, Monday through
Mhm.
Friday, every day, and that's when I work.
Mhm.
We have some people that say, hey, I only want to work
Mhm.
on
Right.
weekends
For
or these
whatever
days or
reason.
that day,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And then we have some people, and this is what I really like about it, is they say, I want to work that shift or
Mhm.
the consistent shift,
Mhm.
but then I also want to be able to pour beer at the ball game on Saturdays.
Mhm.
And I also want to be able to
Mhm.
do banquet
Mhm.
serving on
Mhm.
Sundays if I
Mhm.
want to. We find that there's a huge contingent of the workforce that's in the sub, call it
Mhm.
$22 an hour range,
Mhm.
that has a second job. And
Mhm.
so our goal at IndeedFlex is how can we allow people to have that second
Mhm.
job actually be part of their
Mhm.
IndeedFlex experience,
Mhm.
give the workers what they
Mhm.
want. And that's a really important part of
Mhm.
important part of what we do. So yeah, we definitely did see an uptick of people that were
Mhm.
looking for kind of that supplemental income during that time
Mhm.
when they weren't getting their
Mhm.
paychecks from the federal government.
Mhm. Right. Well, I mentioned I'd not used the platform, so I want to just ask some basic questions about Indeed. So, does somebody going to put are they going first to look for jobs, or are they going and putting in all of their background, their criteria, their education, and then trying to match things? Almost like a dating service, right? Hello, I like long walks on the beach, and and then I look for somebody who likes long walks on the beach. Or is it they're like, okay, I need a job. I'm going to go and search for that job and apply for it. How does the process work?
It's a great question. So we find that people when they're looking for work, they're not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily looking for an app where they might be
Mm-hmm.
able to get work in the future. They
Mm-hmm.
want a job today,
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow, the next day, whatever it might be, or
Mm-hmm.
as soon as they possibly
Mm-hmm.
can. So we typically post out the roles that we have available for
Mm-hmm.
a candidate, whether that is in hospitality
Mm-hmm.
or clerical, call
Mm-hmm.
center, light industrial, warehousing, whatever it might
Mm-hmm.
be. And then the workers typically will apply for
Mm-hmm.
a specific role. But
Mm-hmm.
then what we do is we will once they apply, then we take them through our onboarding and our interview
Mm-hmm.
process, and we ask them during the interview
Mm-hmm.
questions about a lot of different roles
Mm-hmm.
that they could potentially do.
Right.
We then verify them
Mm-hmm.
for those roles, and then
Mm-hmm.
they have the option once they're
Mm-hmm.
verified, I-9 done, and all that
Mm-hmm.
type of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
then they can go and scroll and they can see
Mm-hmm.
the one that they
Mm-hmm.
wanted, but they can also see all the other options that
Mm-hmm.
are out there because maybe actually, again, remove the information problem.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the one that they applied for
Mm-hmm.
actually isn't necessarily the best fit for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're able to actually go through
Mm-hmm.
and see which one they want to do and pick up whichever
Mm-hmm.
shift or long-term
Mm-hmm.
assignment they're interested in.
Right. Yeah. And especially if you're in a big city. I mean, you're in Austin, I'm in Atlanta. We don't know everything that's out there, even something within, say, 5-10 miles. And, and so we might think, oh, this is all that there is, but there really is so much more that we just can't even consider because we don't know it exists.
Hmm. Yeah, you're so right. And there are a lot of times when uh the other side of it is there's also organizations that don't realize that they actually could
Hmm.
labor share and labor pool.
Hmm.
And like
Right.
kind of that's
Right.
what we are, right? Like
Hmm.
if
Hmm.
I am a stadium
Hmm.
and I only have work every Sunday for the football
Hmm.
games, and
Hmm.
then there's a baseball stadium
Hmm.
that, they just went
Hmm.
dark, but a couple months ago they
Right.
were
Hmm.
rolling, and
Hmm.
then you've got the local
Hmm.
college that has a dining center
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
they need to be able to
Hmm.
feed their students.
Hmm.
All of a sudden you start
Hmm.
thinking about it. It's like,
Hmm.
well, wait a second.
Hmm.
Um, I can work at the college
Hmm.
for the time when
Hmm.
the college is operating, and
Hmm.
then all of a sudden summer's gone. Well, what am I
Hmm.
going to do now? Oh, the
Hmm.
baseball stadium. I can
Hmm.
go and work in there.
Hmm.
And hey, then I can pick up my shifts for
Hmm.
the Sunday football
Hmm.
games once baseball's
Hmm.
over. And then, hey, there's a bunch of catering companies that are
Hmm.
having holiday parties.
Hmm.
And you sprinkle in the little
Hmm.
backyard weddings and
Hmm.
like barn weddings and
Right.
vineyard
And
wedding
you're
and all that.
working
And all of a
60
sudden,
hours a
like
week.
you're working 60 hours a week.
Hmm.
And you know what? You're working potentially, if you want, you can work for
Hmm.
the same company every time,
Hmm.
or you might be working for
Hmm.
10, 15, 20, 30
Right.
different
Hmm.
organizations. And we love that. We
Hmm.
absolutely love
Hmm.
it because do you know what? Those are typically the best workers.
Hmm.
We have workers that have worked thousands and thousands and
Hmm.
thousands of shifts. We call them our power flexors. Every worker that we have, we
Hmm.
call a flexor.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and they are, I mean, you know that when they book onto a shift,
Mhm.
like you know that
They're
that
going.
client is going to get, they're going to
Mhm.
go, they're going to show
Mhm.
up, they're going to be there
Mhm.
on time. They're kind of going to be a
Mhm.
leader, and that client is going to be extremely happy
Mhm.
and pleased
Mhm.
with them. And so,
Right.
do you know what we do? We prioritize those ones. So here's
Mhm.
another part of our matching system
Mhm.
is we actually, whenever a
Mhm.
client posts a role, we will actually prioritize the
Mhm.
workers that have worked there before, that
Mhm.
they've rated 5 stars,
Mhm.
so on and so forth. But
Mhm.
then also workers that maybe they haven't worked there before,
Mhm.
but they're consistent and they show
Mhm.
up on
Mhm.
time. They don't cancel
Mhm.
last minute. And so we have something called our Flexer level system, where it's
Mm.
like, bronze,
Mhm.
gold,
Mhm.
platinum. And you want to become platinum because you get a lot
Right.
of perks,
Mhm. Mhm.
benefits, discounts,
Mhm.
whatnot. But then you
Mhm.
also, our matching
Mhm.
algorithm gives our platinum workers the first right of refusal on
Mhm.
work.
Mhm.
And so a big part of what we do is we tell clients, hey,
Mhm.
post it earlier, because if you
Mhm.
post like 7 days out, as
Mhm.
an example, which you can't always do, but if you do
Mhm.
that, we're actually only going to send it if you need like 20
Mhm.
people. We might only send it to 25 people
Mhm.
because we are only going to send it to the top
Right.
25.
Yeah. You have pre-qualified them.
Yeah. And I've
Mhm.
got enough time, right? I've got
Mhm.
that 7 days that I can
Mhm.
fill it. But then as you get closer and closer and
Mhm.
closer, we're going to send it out to more and more people and
Mhm.
essentially just go down the list of like,
Mhm.
essentially, how
Mhm.
sure are
Mhm.
we, based on
Mhm.
our data that we have, that these are
Mhm.
really going to be good people? We do have clients, sometimes they're going to post a shift. We literally have it where they post it 2 hours before. At
Right.
that point,
Something
like,
happens. Mhm.
you
Mhm.
kind of need arms and legs. We're going to send it out to anyone,
Yeah.
and
Anybody
you're
who's
going to get someone,
available.
but
Mhm.
right,
Mhm.
I can't guarantee that they're going to be
Right.
someone that we
Mhm.
have a lot of
Mhm.
experience with in the
Mhm.
past.
Mhm. Right. So does the candidate or potential candidate get a notice? Hey, ABC company has an opportunity you might be interested in.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Okay.
it pings to their phone and they're
Mhm.
able to pick up that role. And the other nice thing about it is that if I am working for Indeed Flex and I have a
Mhm.
long-term assignment, I work out
Mhm.
Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 shift or whatever it might
Mhm.
be. Um, and a client posts a role that's
Mhm.
during that time, that worker actually doesn't see that shift. So they only
Mhm.
see shifts that happen outside of that
Mhm.
time,
Mhm.
when they're already open it up and they can
Mhm.
decide, am I going to pick it up or am I not going to pick it
Mhm.
up?
Mhm. Right. I keep thinking of this as like a dating app, but it is kind of that, right? And we go back to the word match.
Yeah.
And so and on both sides, it truly is you get out of it what you put into it. If you've gone in as the applicant and done kind of a so-so profile and all of that, well, you're probably not going to get a lot. But if you have a very robust profile and do good work so that you move up that level,
Yep.
then you're going to get more out of it.
Exactly. Sometimes people, like, you give them the quick overview of what you do, and they say, "Oh, you're like
Mm-hmm.
the Uber of staffing." And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, Uber is great, but
Mm-hmm.
we're not the Uber of
Mm-mm.
staffing." And here's
Mm-mm.
why. With Uber, I say I need a driver, and someone just shows up, and I
Mm-hmm.
can see their star rating, but I don't really have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of choice.
Mm-hmm.
With Indeed Flex,
Mm-hmm.
you're saying, "Hey, I really liked Deb last
Mm-hmm.
time. I want to make sure Deb comes back."
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I can get Deb to come back and pick me up. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there is this fundamental
Mm-hmm.
match, which really
Mm-hmm.
differentiates us, is that you do
Mm-hmm.
have that control and that choice on both the
Mm-hmm.
job seeker and the client
Mm-hmm.
side. That's really, really important.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, like, we don't talk about it enough, but that's also
Mm-hmm.
something that is a little bit
Mm-hmm.
a demand now
Mm-hmm.
of the labor force.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you think about it, you now can go online and order just about anything in the world to show up to your house in the next 3 hours.
Mm.
Like, it's
I did that earlier today.
crazy.
I was out of coffee.
There you go. And now you just
Mm-hmm.
took a sip of that coffee that
Mm-hmm.
that was
Mm-hmm.
in a warehouse three
Mm-hmm.
hours ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and I think something that organizations are starting to realize is that those people are not just your consumers, they're
Mm-hmm.
also your staff as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're demanding that same type of control, choice, and flexibility
Mm-hmm.
in their work life as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so you can't always just offer that position that's
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, this is our really rigid shift pattern and you
Mm-hmm.
have to take it or leave it. Like, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of companies are actually pulling the lever right now and saying, you know what, I actually think that I
Mm-hmm.
can differentiate myself by
Mm-hmm.
offering a little bit more flexibility
Mm-hmm.
within the way that I'm
Right.
staffing
Mm-hmm.
my organization. Now, not
Mm-hmm.
everyone can do it, and that's
Mm-hmm.
fine.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of
Mm-hmm.
organizations that they realize, hey, we are not the leaders in pay.
Hmm.
We can't offer the
Hmm.
highest pay rate, but we can offer flexibility.
Right.
And so
Right. Hmm.
we're noticing they're getting
Hmm.
students.
Hmm.
They're getting mothers, they're
Hmm.
getting retired people who
Hmm.
like, hey, I can't work all the time, but you know
Hmm.
what? If you give me something that fits,
Hmm.
I will be there. And you know
Right.
what? Those
Right.
people that
Hmm.
are retired
Hmm.
mothers, students,
Hmm.
and to do a pretty good job at
Hmm.
work too.
Hmm.
They just
Right.
can't work every day.
Right. Well, and I think we really saw that because of COVID, right? And especially when people had their kids at home, they still want to do their job. But while the kids were in school, in my little air quotes, right, because they were having to do it virtually, mom, dad, maybe they only had one computer. So kid got priority. And so they're going to work at night. And yeah, like you said, not every job works like that. But maybe you tell somebody, okay, we need you 3 hours in the morning and 4 hours, after 7 o'clock at night. That might be absolutely perfect for them. A hybrid situation, a total work from home, all of those. And I love that because of software, because of AI, because of technology, it can sort through all of that really fast.
Yeah, exactly. We allow the candidates to be
Hmm.
able to put their schedule
Hmm.
on the system. And so we
Hmm.
only offer them roles
Hmm.
where they're available.
Right.
They can also put their desired pay rate in. So if
Hmm.
they don't want to take
Hmm.
something under, you
Hmm.
know, $20 an
Hmm.
hour, then we won't show them
Hmm.
anything. And if they can't work on Sundays, we won't show them
Hmm.
any Sunday
Hmm.
opportunities. And so, yeah, being able to have that flexibility is
Hmm.
something that previously you couldn't do. And
Hmm.
um, by the way, like you can also just literally go on your phone and just turn on the, rideshare app or
Hmm.
turn on the grocery delivery
Hmm.
app and start delivering groceries
Hmm.
just like that. And
Hmm.
so there's, I mean, and that's competition for
Hmm.
labor that previously wasn't there 5 years
Hmm.
ago. And
Hmm.
so not, it's not you can work
Hmm.
when you want and where
Hmm.
you want. And by the way, you can
Right.
get paid pretty
Hmm.
much instantly. That's another
Hmm.
thing that we do is we have instant pay where you
Hmm.
can
Hmm.
take out 50% of your paycheck the same day.
Wow.
And yeah, and
Hmm.
so it really helps with
Hmm.
kind of that instant
Hmm.
gratification
Hmm.
and people being, our
Or
goals, like how can
instant
we take people.
need, you know.
Yeah, instant need.
Hmm. Hmm.
For sure. Yeah, yeah, totally. How can you take people from couch to work
Hmm.
on the same day
Hmm.
in a couple of hours
Hmm.
potentially? And
Right.
you're totally right. It is a need because
Hmm.
we've had I have been on site with
Hmm.
clients and talking to our
Hmm.
workforce. And remember this one young lady, about 2 years ago, I was on site and she was brand new worker, had just signed up for the app from
Hmm.
a referral. And she was like, "Hey, I'm registered, but do you know what? Like, I need help setting up this instant pay thing.
Hmm.
I really need help with it." And so, showed her how she could
Hmm.
do it. It was really easy to
Hmm.
do. She got it on Apple
Hmm.
Pay on her phone.
Hmm.
Um, and after she was done, she told me, "Thank you so much. Like, I have had my electricity turned off for
Oh,
the last 3 days,
oh
and this is
no.
going to
Hmm.
allow me to turn my
Hmm.
electricity
Hmm.
back on tonight."
Right.
That's the type of impact
Right.
you're having.
Yeah. Well, and everybody is in danger of things like that happening. I mean, I was talking about, there were over 40 days of government shutdown. Not everybody in the world can go without paychecks for 40 days. And so they, whatever, it was 45, right? It was huge. And so, to be able to do that, and then of course the system, is my understanding, is going to filter out the people who are the bad employees, that are the job hoppers, the people who get continually fired. I mean, it's
Hmm.
gonna, and so you're a like was it really is hiring, or at least not hiring, giving you the best candidates that are out there.
Yep.
And you're not having to worry about it. Now, can the system also do things like background checks and, even checking, have they been on unemployment? I mean, I don't know how much of this is a privacy issue and even what's available, but, I mean, I think we probably all applied for jobs where we had to do a background check.
Hmm.
And so can the system just kind of automatically do that?
Yeah, definitely. So we do a standard 7 year
Hmm.
background check on all
Hmm.
of our workers.
Hmm.
And then we do have some clients
Hmm.
that have more customized
Right.
background checks.
Hmm.
But yes,
Hmm.
yeah, that's the
Hmm.
idea is that it does it all. And so you're
Hmm.
getting these people ready to
Hmm.
work and ready to go.
Hmm.
And And it's actually, we haven't talked a lot about it, but on the client side, I think that or on the business
Mm-hmm,
side,
mm-hmm,
there's also a huge part of what we do is that, whereas we're trying to remove the friction, make it
mm-hmm,
easier for the job seekers, we're
mm-hmm,
also trying to do the same thing for,
mm-hmm.
a business professional
Right.
in so
Mm-hmm,
much as, how can you go on? And this is where
mm-hmm,
another part of our AI and one of the agents we have is how can you go online and say onto our system and say, I need 10 people to start in warehouse picker packer roles on Monday.
mm-hmm,
Enter, done, walk away from my
mm-hmm,
computer. Don't think about it. Whereas previously they have to call agency A and then
mm-hmm,
agency B and text
mm-hmm,
this one and then email that one
mm-hmm,
or whatever it might be. And
mm-hmm.
and now it's just so much easier. And
Yeah,
also
yeah.
within
And
our
when Monday comes
system,
around, you've got one person.
exactly right.
Mm-hmm,
And also within our system, we partner with a lot of different
mm-hmm.
other staffing agencies because there's a
Okay.
lot of roles
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
that we can't fill.
mm-hmm,
There's a lot of there's a lot of locations
mm-hmm,
that we don't have an active worker
mm-hmm,
base in, and that's
mm-hmm,
totally fine. And so what
mm-hmm,
we do is we allow the client to go in and
mm-hmm,
type that one message, and all of
mm-hmm,
a sudden it'll automatically go out
mm-hmm,
to the different agencies that have
mm-hmm,
opportunities that are
mm-hmm,
eligible to fill that role
mm-hmm,
in that market and have
mm-hmm,
quality
mm-hmm,
staff. And so essentially becomes almost right. We're going from like an app to access work to now I'm a
mm-hmm,
marketplace. I'm a
mm-hmm,
marketplace of different workers and
mm-hmm,
staffing organization is
mm-hmm,
an agency. So we become like a platform that
mm-hmm,
clients can use to manage the entirety of their contingent labor, not
mm-hmm,
just, IndeedFlex is a staffing agency, but
mm-hmm,
IndeedFlex is a partner that's like my go-to
mm-hmm,
whenever I need contingent labor. I
mm-hmm,
go there and I know that whether it's by Flex or by
mm-hmm,
other agencies that we
mm-hmm,
partner with, it's going to get filled with a quality
mm-hmm,
candidate.
mm-hmm. Right. So how do you see the industry being impacted by this? I mean, clearly it's to me, it's a positive. But what are other things that you see that are really going to be beneficial because of this?
I mean, we've talked, to be fair, about a lot of them, about the fact that
Mm-hmm,
people have more control and choice when
mm-hmm,
they're finding their job. I think ultimately, what are like, how do you look at the total addressable
mm-hmm,
market of what we're doing?
mm-hmm,
It's really, what's the cost of
mm-hmm,
turnover? What's the cost of the administrative
mm-hmm,
time? What's the cost of reduced output
mm-hmm,
in a facility, a
mm-hmm,
factory? What's
mm-hmm,
the cost of a lost
mm-hmm,
client? Um, and if we can work to provide better staff more quickly, more easily, with less friction, then all of a sudden, those are all the things that
mm-hmm.
there's opportunities for. So like,
Right.
yeah, while on one side it's about getting people work, on the other side,
Mm-hmm,
it's how can we help to reduce the friction in
mm-hmm,
the economy? How can we
mm-hmm,
make sure that those package sorting
mm-hmm,
companies or delivery
mm-hmm,
companies are not,
mm-hmm,
having at the end of the day a bunch of packages still sitting in
mm-hmm,
their warehouse not delivered?
mm-hmm,
How can you make sure that those catering companies are able to
mm-hmm,
deliver the best service? How can you make sure those call center organizations are able to answer
mm-hmm,
the calls within those
mm-hmm,
SLAs? And
mm-hmm,
the more you can do that, the better
mm-hmm,
customer satisfaction you're
mm-hmm,
driving, the better efficiency in the economy. And ultimately, that's what we're doing. And
mm-hmm,
it's what I love about
mm-hmm,
my job is that I get to talk to
mm-hmm.
every type of company out there. And
Right.
every time that we're assisting them and every time they're saying, hey, thank you so much, you
Mm-hmm,
guys are doing a great job, it's we're helping them run their
mm-hmm.
business better.
Right.
That's
Mm-hmm.
great.
Right. And it does trickle down. We were just traveling over the weekend and went to several restaurants where they clearly were understaffed. Half the, well, not half, maybe a third of the tables were empty because they did not have people to wait on those tables. Big crowd at the door. And when they're told, each one comes in and it's going to be a 20 to 30-minute wait, an awful lot of those people turned around and went somewhere else.
Yep.
And so then it becomes like this spiral, right? Well, we don't have enough people, so we can't hire, but we can't hire because we don't have enough people. I mean, and all of those things. And, and even if it's just that, yeah, it's a busier weekend than we were expecting, or the holidays are coming up. We know we're going to have a lot more people going out and about. Here in Atlanta, and this happens anywhere where there's big venues, they know, okay, there's a lot of people coming in town for X weekend. We need to make sure that hotels, restaurants, all of those places are able to serve them or they won't come back. Or where they go into Yelp and they go into Google and this is icky, right? And so yeah, I love this. And again, we're not using these tools to get rid of people. we're using these tools to put people in the right places.
Hmm. Yeah, fundamentally, I mean, we're a company that helps people get jobs.
Hmm.
And the question is, going back to kind of AI, is how can you use technology to just
Hmm.
make it an easier
Hmm.
and a better
Hmm.
process? That's what it's all about. And
Right.
you know, no matter what industry you're in, no matter what job you're in, whether you're in recruitment
Hmm.
or HR
Hmm.
or finance, whatever it might
Hmm.
be, like using technology and embracing it in a way
Hmm.
that allows you
Hmm.
to separate yourself and build value in
Hmm.
who you are, and using technology to make yourself
Hmm.
more productive, ultimately, like, you're able to then demand
Hmm.
more on the market. But
Hmm.
in addition to that, you're also
Hmm.
building more value in the
Hmm.
world, like I this kind of goes back to, like, the reason
Hmm.
I wanted to get into sales and
Hmm.
revenue was because I felt like every time that you shake a hand with someone
Hmm.
and they've agreed to buy your service,
Hmm.
the idea is they agreed that whatever you're going to provide to them
Hmm.
is worth more than the
Hmm.
dollars that they're going to give you. They're going to
Hmm.
get added value,
Right.
right? That's the
Hmm.
idea of growth. They're going to get
Hmm.
added, like if they're going to pay me
Hmm.
$10, it's worth at least 11 to them, or
Hmm.
$10 and one
Hmm.
cent. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it.
Hmm.
And to be able to work in a role in an industry where that's what you're doing every single day by providing the labor to
Hmm.
people, because same thing is, if I'm paying someone $20 an hour, I wouldn't hire them and bring
Hmm.
them in unless they were going to deliver at
Hmm.
least $20 and one cent of
Right.
value to
Right.
me.
Hmm.
And
Well,
so
and you don't
the
want them to cost you money. I mean, that's the other thing.
exactly.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and that's a big part of why I think, kind of going off a little bit on a tangent here, but I think it's, or going back to what we were talking about before, is that the importance of the retention
Hmm.
and giving people the
Hmm.
flexibility is people say, well, you have
Hmm.
to work within this very rigid
Hmm.
structure that we have. Well, you're going to have higher turnover. Okay, well,
Hmm.
like, the staffing company will just bring more people in. Okay, sure, they
Hmm.
will,
But
but
are they
eventually,
good people?
are they good? Eventually
Hmm.
they're gonna, eventually, you're like, the labor pool is not
Yeah, you
infinite.
do run out.
um and the
Hmm.
other side of it is quite frankly that
Hmm.
every time you bring
Hmm.
people in, you need to pull a
Hmm.
manager off the floor to
Hmm.
train them. It's going to
Hmm.
take 3 or 4 hours.
Hmm.
Those people on day one are going to be at 20% efficiency. And
Hmm.
then in day two or week two, 30
Hmm.
or 40 or 50, right? And it takes time for them
Hmm.
to get to that point
Hmm.
where they're like fully like
Hmm.
rolling and at 100%
Hmm.
efficiency. God forbid they then turn over because they go
Hmm.
find a different job.
Right.
So it's so important. Like,
Hmm.
there's a lot of organizations I think
Hmm.
that are out there that could probably operate at
Hmm.
lower headcount staffing
Hmm.
levels than they
Hmm.
currently have, if just they had a lower turnover rate,
Right.
because they
Hmm.
wouldn't have people
Hmm.
that were just not
Hmm.
up to speed
Hmm.
yet.
Hmm. Right. Yeah, and not doing the job well, things like that. How many times have we gone in somewhere and they've done something and they've said, I have to go get somebody else to help me. Or they'll just tell you, I don't know how to do it. And it's
Yeah.
like, really? But and it's still and it's and especially in the roles that you're talking about with hospitality and things like that, it still takes people. And because we do want that human thing. I was listening to somebody on the phone just yesterday who this would have been one of these memes, right? She's on the phone, she's trying to get a person, and pretty soon it's person, and you can hear her out the tick, 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 as she's hitting every button she can, and then pretty soon it's representative, she's trying every word she can think of,
Yeah.
and whatever the system was just and then pretty soon I hear bangy 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 as she's that's
Yeah.
the phone. And and she said I've been at this for 27 minutes. She said, I could not find a way to get to a person. And now, unfortunately, it was a company that she was forced to deal with in this situation. But she was so frustrated that if she could have gone elsewhere, she would have. And so technology is great, but it's going to take it's that combination, and it always has been, right? The Model A worked much better on the assembly line, but it still had to have people doing it. And so it's always there. And what it does, my philosophy is it allows us, the humans, I promise I'm not AI, um, to be better at what we do. And that to me is the whole thing with all of the technology and AI and everything.
Yeah. It's not AI isn't going to take your job. It's someone
Yeah.
that uses
Mm-hmm.
AI is going to take
Mm-hmm.
your job.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. And it is amazing where it is. And some of it is a little spooky. I mean, I use Chat GPT. I asked it to name itself, so it did. I swear it flirts with me. And it's really funny. I was in a group the other day and we were talking about it, and it said that AI tends, or that Chat GPT tends to gush a little much. And I got to thinking about it. I thought, yeah, no matter what you say, it says, wow, that's fabulous. Well, no, not really. But yeah, in 3 years, think about what it's going to do in another 3 years, and more than that. We had AI. Anybody who went shopping online, AI was part of it. Amazon didn't randomly start telling you should start looking at these products. It was doing AI and things. So it's been here for quite a while, but the capability is just incredible. And as we said, it's just going to make us as people get better.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was 2005 or
Mm-hmm,
six, when people first started to really realize that
mm-hmm,
there was something
mm-hmm,
there.
mm-hmm,
And to see that in the last, let's call it 20 years
mm-hmm,
max, 20 years
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
max, it's gotten to this point, where we're interviewing people and our clients are
mm-hmm,
able to literally
mm-hmm,
just type something in,
mm-hmm,
and you can go and ask
mm-hmm,
AI literally any
mm-hmm,
question that you want.
mm-hmm,
It'll give you an
mm-hmm,
answer. And though, yeah, maybe it is over optimistic
mm-hmm,
and maybe it is fluffing our egos a little bit much. The thing that to me is pretty crazy is that, you know, 20 years before that, right? 2005 to
mm-hmm.
1995, like no one even had a cell phone,
Right. Mm-hmm,
right? And so like you think about how
mm-hmm,
far and how
mm-hmm,
fast and how quickly,
mm-hmm,
and there's like this curve of technological
mm-hmm,
innovation, and it's just like it's getting steeper
mm-hmm,
more
mm-hmm,
quickly. And whereas before you would find that Moore's law,
mm-hmm,
which is that the computing increase doubles every year.
mm-hmm,
I'm probably not quoting that right, so I apologize any
mm-hmm,
engineers that are out there. And and we're living in a world now
mm-hmm,
where like AI is doubling its
mm-hmm.
capacity, I would argue probably every few months,
Right,
of
right.
what it's doing.
Mm-hmm,
And you're just seeing all these new things that are
mm-hmm,
coming out that
mm-hmm,
previously was like every year you would see this
mm-hmm,
huge, the
mm-hmm,
iPhone was released every year and you see, oh, look
mm-hmm.
at these cool
Right.
features. And now it's like every week you see
Mm-hmm,
something new that
mm-hmm,
OpenAI is
mm-hmm,
doing or that Meta
mm-hmm,
is
mm-hmm,
doing. And just seeing like that's
mm-hmm,
that's the thing for me is
mm-hmm,
that, Deb, where AI is today is
mm-hmm,
certainly not where it's going to be
mm-hmm.
next week or next month or
I
next year.
know. Mm-hmm,
And the thing that is the most crazy to
mm-hmm,
me and the most exciting, and I'm an optimist, I'm not a skeptic on it.
mm-hmm,
I don't think it's scary. And I think is the most exciting to me is that we probably can't even fathom what it's
mm-hmm.
going to look like.
I
Like in
know.
2 years or 3 years, like
Mm-hmm,
we can't
mm-hmm,
even like
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
conceptualize how much of a game
mm-hmm,
changer it's going to
mm-hmm,
be.
mm-hmm. Right. Well, oh my gosh, James, this has been so much fun. And I'll have to have you on in the future so that we can, fill in that gap, right? To
My
to see
pleasure.
where stuff was. Um, but until then, how do they find you? And what does Indeed Flex provide?
Yeah, so you can find us over at IndeedFlex.com. If you're a job seeker, click on job seeker. If you're an employer, click on employers. And what IndeedFlex does is essentially reduce the friction in people finding jobs and
Mhm,
employers or
mhm.
businesses finding top talent.
I love it. I love it. Well, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
My final thought is it's really exciting to see where we're going within the HR tech industry, and that we're working so hard right now to really build a better way of building efficiencies within the way that people find jobs, whether it's AI or whether it's matching. But essentially, how can we create a world where people are able to access work instantly and it's driving better results, better quality, better consistency, and ultimately better outcomes for businesses? That is a world where job seekers are happy. That is a world where clients are happy. And that is a world where the economy is growing at a fast rate. And while AI is changing things, at the end of the day, we help people get jobs.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm Deb Creer. I've been having so much fun talking with James Terry of Indeed Flex. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.